I'm Antonio Zanalato.
And I am your co-host, Jacob Saldana.
And I'm here to serve men who are seeking more out of their life and themselves, men who are ready to dive deeper and do the work. In this podcast, we will help increase your curiosity in order to live more of an examined life,
to live with integrity for yourself and others,
and to accept the things in life that you can control. Our goal is to help you bring out the warrior within you. Welcome
What's
to the
up,
Warrior
and
Lab.
welcome back to another Warrior Lab podcast. It is Wednesday. This is Jacob Saldana checking in.
With Antonio Zanalato. What up, guys?
Where we are unpacking some of our challenges as we kind of discover our inner warriors and represent ourselves the way that we'd like to, and hopefully help you do the same as we live an examined life and try to, get outside of ourselves to solve some of our problems and reach out to each other to get different perspectives. And I think that's where this conversation is going to start today. And it's going to be around relationships a little bit. So there's obviously a willingness for us to share and talk about things that we are personally going through. And, sometimes relationships becomes one that is really challenging to share and talk about, because sometimes friend groups or even acquaintances might know who the person you're in with the relationship is, and you might be hesitant to shine them in any type of light, right? And with these conversations, that's never the intention. I think there's always a level of understanding, at least within the guys that I have the ability to share with, that's not my goal or my intention. So today, in today's men's group, I did take the lead on it a little bit, to share some of the things that I am being, I guess, challenged with. And it's not necessarily a new challenge for me. It just has bubbled up again. And, sometimes things bubble up when you're getting a little burned out, when you're grinding and you don't have it as much access or willingness to take that breath and create space and respond versus react.
When your will tank is low.
Exactly. So that happened to me a couple of days ago. And one of the big triggers for me is around having kids. It's what I've anchored my entire purpose to, and I know as humans, as animals, we are here to have babies, to have offsprings. That's what keeps this human race alive, and we can rationalize and come up with so many different stories about how that's not the case anymore, how we need to pursue this or pursue that. But I don't necessarily believe that. For me, my purpose and why I do essentially all the things that I'm doing to seek discomfort, to try to grow businesses, is anchored in this idea of seeing what I'm made of, learning the lessons, working on myself to be, a man that lives with an integrity and has values, so that I can pass that on to the next generation. And recently, a topic of conversation is around kids, or at least somewhat trying to plan for that, or at least having the conversation. And recently in that conversation, it was kind of thrown out to me about being, 5 years down the road, 4 to 5 years down the road, which is fine. But to me, kind of, and honestly, I'm not even really would say that right now I need to have a kid, or I even want to necessarily. There's a lot of things that I can do on my end to better prepare for that. But that just triggered me right in that sense, because, I've been in this relationship for 6 years now, and that was the conversation from the beginning. Hey, maybe 4 or 5 years. And now, if this is another 4 or 5 years, that's 10 years. And, I'm getting older, I'd be, 44, 45, which again is manageable, but we don't have forever. Right. So that triggered me. And then I started saying things, around kind of threatening, hey, in the kindest, most manipulative way that I could. And where I was like, hey, I'll still love you, but I need to know this answer so that I can, leave and go find somebody, you know what I mean? And I didn't really mean that, it is hard for me to imagine, having this relationship forever without kids, because that was always been such a big part of the story. So yeah, that led to me, you know, saying other things that, you know, I'm not necessarily proud of. And, you know, when you're hurt, you're just trying to get somebody
to share. You just want to share your hurt. Yes.
Yeah.
Your
And
pain.
like, so yeah, that led to that whole thing. And in that effort to try to share why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling, you know, one of the ways, so just one of the things that's tied up in this whole kid.
Can I ask you something, Jacob? When you say you share, you know, what you were feeling, did you share on the action landscape of things or on the actual emotions that you were experiencing during that conversation?
I guess I wasn't using words like, you know, I'm scared or I feel fear around, you know, this. It wasn't really that. It was more like, so one thing I guess around kids is Laura is a musician. She's a singer songwriter and she's pursuing that. And she, you know, we released an EP for her a couple of years ago, and she's, you know, working through that, trying to do live shows and all that. So there's a timeline around that. Again, that's another story, right? But that is a story that she is largely hanging on to,
of course,
right? That there's a timeline on this, and there's that if she was to have a kid, that her career or her pursuit of that career would be over. So one of the things that I shared was, because outwardly I am pretty supportive of this, right? And I'm trying to say the right things, even though sometimes when I really reflect on it, because there's a little resistance for that. So, I mean, what I come to the conclusion is just that, and this is how I'm wired, and it could sound so fucked up and like such a bad person, but it's the truth of the matter. And I'm so willing to just be pretty damn honest about things. Mm-hmm. And like, this is the first time that I told her was that like, I feel like I can't fully root for you, because if I'm rooting for you, that's in direct opposition of my main goal, which is to have kids. And if I'm rooting for you to reach this level of success and we're in this relationship and you get put on and you find that success and now you have to tour and do all that, I'm out. I'm out of this goal or this vision that I had for us. You know, the timeline just doesn't make sense. And, you know, sharing that does fucking suck. Like, and that's been the position I've been carrying for, you know, a couple of years. You know, I'm helping support her in creating this music. I'm trying to give advice where I can, but deep down inside, I'm low key rooting against her, you know, and like at times when we're having these heated conversations, it becomes pretty apparent that I'm low key rooting against her, you know, because, that's out of my control at some capacity, because it's such deep rooted fear and such deep rooted subconscious like behavior that there is probably a little bit of self-sabotage, you know? And when we shared the other day, and where I was like, if I was her, I wouldn't be with me. You know what I mean? And like, that shit fucking sucks. And I don't want to be that person, you know? And in that heated conversation.
Let me ask you this. So who will be that person that will be with you?
If I was her or if I was me?
If that was her.
Like I want her to feel fully supported, and I want to feel fully supported. And it's a weird place to be, to not be able to like fully support your partner, to have like these things that are holding you back, you know, because I want to have this like exact same shared goal, you know what I mean? And it's selfish for me to ask of that, which kind of puts me back into this position of like trying to manipulate that or trying to plant seeds in order to do that. And like, that's where the subconscious shit comes out, where it's like, you know, the little, you know, and the way that I end up communicating to her is the way that I communicate to myself, especially when it comes into this like feeling of like fear, right? And being in this scarce like argument where you're just trying to go to battle, right? So it's like in those moments, those mean things of feeling of inadequacy and all that stuff is so close to my surface with my own self conversation and narrative that the only way that I can get somebody to feel that is by making them feel inadequate and making them feel like they're not working hard enough. And that's how I make her feel. And that shit fucking sucks.
Got it.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of where we're at right now,
Got it.
you know, like where I've made her feel that way. And
Did she share how you made her feel? You just an assumption that that's how she felt.
No, she definitely shared that. Right?
Okay.
And it's like, even for me, it's like, okay, I recognize my mistakes in that.
And do you own up to that or no?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
You know, and it's like, but you know, she's hurt, and I can only imagine, like, cause I've tried to bounce back pretty quickly, but then again, no one's saying this shit to me that I said to her. You know what I mean? Like, I get triggered when someone gives me a bad Yelp review type of thing. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, so imagine the person closest to you, cutting you like that. And that's what breaks my heart, is that it's like, fuck, like, why, you know, why can't
Well, you say why. You say why. You were sharing your pain. You wanted to share, you know, you want to make her feel the pain you were experiencing. You say why.
Yeah. And so
I don't want to say the problem. The only missing step or component here in the equation, I believe, is to get clarity around what is that you're feeling emotion-wise, and share that with her so she can relate with your frustration, your anger, your fear. Because, you know, fear is just, anger is just a secondary emotion. You know, it's triggered usually by...
And I feel like that's kind of accessible for her too, because that's probably how she feels about not being successful in music. You know, like everything that she's ever wanted since she was 12 years old is in regards to that. And everything she's kind of worked towards is in regards to that. So that's, again, why it's like such a deep rooted thing. It's like this or that. Jacob wins or Lara wins. And that's I don't know if anybody else has ever been in that position, but it's pretty weird.
I'm not recalling necessarily being in that position. However, what is clear to me is that you have this clear picture of how things gonna unfold if one thing or the other takes place.
Right.
And that's a story that you are telling yourself. Her making it in the music, and as a reason, and as a consequence, not being able to be a mother or give you a child. That's a narrative. That's a story that you're telling yourself. Is that the truth?
Right. And that's why I'm, you know, the position that I'm in today is different than where I was yesterday or the day before, because I was able to get some clarity, at least for myself. Right. And I think in part of that, I guess a little bit of frustration is like, I'm willing to work on different options. Right. So like, even in the past, I've been like, oh, well, you know, because hypothetically, I haven't been to the doctor. So who knows? I might be shooting blanks. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's also a reality in where maybe we came to this agreement, oh, let's have kids, that I physically can't. That's who knows? You know what I mean? It's not easy to actually procreate and have a kid, right?
Not into this world.
You know, so that, you know, in that light, I've kind of tried to do some reframing where it's like, oh, what if that was the case? Like, am I going to be okay? Can I continue to pursue life and you know, go through these challenges that are really hard? And like the anchor was like, oh, I'm going to go through this challenge so that I can share this with my kid. Can I adopt? Would I still have that drive to pass that on to, you know, a kid that wasn't necessarily my bloodline? Maybe, you know, could I mentor younger kids? You know, can I, you know, so this is me.
See how far down the line you are without even knowing where you're standing today.
I don't know. Yeah. Try it out.
Right. And I'm not judging you for, I can totally relate with that. And by the way, I was, you know, Jen and I had to go through loops to have our girls today, you know, and it wasn't easy, but, you know, here we are, 4 years later, 2 healthy kids, you know, blessed. So what I'm saying here, shooting blanks or having fertility problems on either side, one side or the other, it's pretty common these days. Mm-hmm. And so that's not necessarily, I would say it's more the norm than that it's not, right? So just feel more at peace with that, that component of the equation. However, what's going on here, Jacob, is that you have been working so hard in breaking this generational spell that it will feel meaningless for you if you are not able to pass these on to the next generation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's because I'm not somebody who gets that much enjoyment out of life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's something that I'm hanging on to be like the thing that might give me enjoyment, which I understand could be, again, pretty dangerous and not the healthiest thing to rely upon. As we mentioned, there's other things that could, remove that from a opportunity from you or whatever. So I guess that's what just kind of scares me, that if I don't have that, then it's like, fuck, and what are we working for? You know what I mean? And it's like, that's me then trying to go down these other, like, try to write these different narratives, these different stories. Oh, I can adopt. Okay, let me try to get behind that, right? Mm-hmm. And just being able to look at these different options. So one of the conclusions that I ultimately came to, which is so that, because again, the goal for me is to completely root for her 100% authentically without any anything, any
agendas or any reserve.
Right. So, I was like, one thing that I could do is completely support that, push, help push and all that. And hopefully she makes success, right? Maybe she turns it up and like, boom, it happens in a year. And now she has to go, because you can see how much these are all stories. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the takeaways I want from this is how powerful stories are that we get to actually tell ourselves. Yeah. So someone could be listening to me like, bro, that's all just bullshit. It doesn't matter. If it's what motivates you to make a change or do the things or be okay with yourself and with your relationship, you better start rewriting these stories. Mm-hmm. So the story I'm saying is like, hey, let's make that success. Let's make that happen. I want you to blow up. Mm-hmm. And hypothetically you blow up and now you're on tour. Mm-hmm. Why don't, and now there's no money, hopefully, because you blew up, right?
Stay on that. Why
don't we just, now why don't we just get a surrogate, right? Where it's your egg, my sperm, and we make this baby, and somebody else carries this baby, right?
Yes.
That's not that far of a reach, and where reality-wise, if all that happened, that's a real option, right? And then 4 or 5 years down the road, all right, if it's a solid level of success, she can now take a breath and kind of feel good about what she's accomplished. All right, now we carry that child. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, boom, simple as that. Like, why haven't I thought about that shit before? Right. Mm-hmm. So like, I feel like hopefully she's on board with that. But whether or not she is or not, it's still the story that I'm telling for myself that I need, so that, because I need to support her fully. And I need to have that cognitive dissonance removed from myself.
Why do you feel that need, Jacob?
Because we're partners. We're in this together, right? Mm-hmm. And she's so sweet and caring and wants to support me the way that she can. And more importantly, like, who wants to live their life with that cognitive dissonance when you want, you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot to carry. That's a lot of energy that you're suppressing and like shadow that you're trying to push down, and to not feel great about yourself. That's probably a pretty big reason why at times I don't feel that great about myself, is because the person closest to you, you're low key rooting against that, whether or not you want to acknowledge that or not, that shit ain't fucking light. That's not something that's going to, make you feel good about yourself. And whether or not I'm just now vocalizing that to her, it's something that I've carried very deep down this entire time. Mm-hmm. And just like I wouldn't want her to have kids and be resentful, it would be fucking horrible for me, for her to see success and me be success and me be resentful. Like, that's friggin' horrible.
Yeah.
So.
A good job with that though. Good job with that.
Well, you know, and now it's just, I think, again, continuing to work on different motivating factors and different drivers and trying to reframe the narrative of the voice in the head. Right. And like, you know, this is really important to try to speak to yourself in a healthier way and, you know, let that coach's voice change over time, you know, and realize that coach that was telling you to work more and to do this and to do that, and you're a piece of shit if you don't, isn't what's going to turn me into the guy that I ultimately want to be. It's more of a loving, more of a, you know, a graceful, compassionate voice, you know, and it's so hard to bring that in, you know, but I know I'm getting close and, you know, patting my back on that, because there are people that I'm able to be naturally compassionate to. There's other people that no, they get the voice that I get, and that's unfortunate, but it's also kind of
and it's okay. And it's totally fine. And the people sometimes you're compassionate with, they can also get the voice one day, and it's totally okay. And they're just being human, man. That's just part of being human. We're trying to force the way we want to show up in a world where, to be honest with you, I don't think it's realistic. You know, being mindful, you know, being this present all the time.
Yeah.
It's not realistic, dude.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's healthy.
I mean, the people that present themselves that way, like, do you think that's even real?
No,
like,
I don't think so. And guess what, dude? Guess what? Even if it's real, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
It's not. And reason why, being present requires a lot of fucking energy. It requires a lot from you, right? And it's okay to be driving around in a semi-subconscious state. You don't need to be present while you are, you know, driving around within the limit of, you know, safety, obviously. You don't want to close your eyes or, you know, being zoned out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't have to be, you know, present and be aware of everything that's going on around you, within you, outside of you. It's totally okay to shut it down. The body needs that.
Because I mean, I think with social media, with, you know, even the perception of seeing you on Instagram or even me on Instagram, whatever it is, you know, sometimes things are presented in a way where it's like, that's where you need to be, rather than that's not even real. Right. And I think that's the importance of having these conversations and these men's groups, you know, but these people that seem just to be content and they're just putting that out there, you know, they're giving you this imagery of like, everything's all good. And like, I don't know that to be true at all. That's not for me at all. Like, and I don't want to, like, I don't even, like, do I want to believe that to be true? Is that what I even want to aspire to? Or do I want to be a skeptic? And I don't want to be like, oh, that guy's full of shit. You know what I mean? Or you're saying, you know, I guess another thing that came up was like, you know, someone painted the picture of this idea of like, the only way that you can really fill up the people around you is if your cup is overflowing. And to me, again, that's more of that narrative of like, that's bullshit. Like, that sounds great, but that's bullshit.
You know what? And the cup sometimes is overflowing. And sometimes you're in a position where you can help people around you with, you know, effortlessly, so to speak. But that's not always the case. That's not always the case. Sometimes your cup is empty and you need to look for people around you to fill it. You know, it's a stress that we put upon ourselves. It's a pressure that we're putting, you know, upon ourselves that inevitably is going to set us up for failure.
I mean, when you're feeling like your cup is empty, do you feel like you're able to step back and solely focus on filling your cup?
No.
Yeah, me. That's the thing. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Is like, if we're painting this picture as like, oh, well, the only way you can really be generous and do all these things is if your cup is full. No, like, you need to continue to, and that carries a little bit of weight and pressure, but no, we're still out here doing the work, having people that rely on us, and we need to continue to fill cups even when those moments are low. And it's like, that's where it's like, not just getting in your feelings and operating based off your feelings. Like there's work to be done. And this is, again, I think what it takes to be like the warrior or being the men that we want to be is like, we can't stay in these feelings. We still got work to do while we're working this. We're trying to become multidimensional and do these all, not do it all, but we know that we can't just focus on this one thing.
Yes and no. Why no? I believe as a human being, we, in a state of awareness, we operate based on certain values that we have, right? We have a list of values, being, family, money, relation, whatever that is, right? If filling the tank to someone else means compromising any of those values that are listed above that, and then I'm not in. That makes sense? If nurturing a relationship with someone at the expenses of my family, myself, because ultimately I am the top value. I'm the top of the list, myself. Or, finance, whatever that is. And then no, I'm not in. I will be in once my cup it's filled again. I'm not gonna be there and be drained by something that holds a lower value compared to things more important in my life. Does that make sense?
Definitely. And I think, even as the awareness just needs to be there, right? So it's like, the goal is sustainability. The goal is to continue to be able to do the work. And at some point you'll see where your holes lie, right? So it's like, if you notice that the only thing that fills your cup is when you're say filling somebody else's cup, that might be then overflowing back into you because you get off on helping others, and that's what fills your cup. But if you're always in this deficit, you're just busting your ass to fill this other person's cup. And yes, you're getting a little spillover of that.
You're just getting validation.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's essentially what it is. So knowing that might be enough to drive you right now and keep you going, I know that that's not fully sustainable. So there's work that I need to do to feel worth filling my cup.
Correct.
So that still is the goal, and I still want to aspire to that. But in the meantime, we still got to act the way that we want to be, and maybe just from that, I don't know, maybe the cup will get filled by itself, well doing.
Man, is your bank account steady at one amount or fluctuates?
It'll be lower once I pay this invoice that Nunzio has sitting in my inbox.
You and I both. But on a serious note, what I'm trying to say here is like, that cup is not going to always be full, man. And you got to be okay with that. You cannot focus on keeping that cups full all the times. It's too much pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I've gotten too comfortable with it not being full, like with it being empty. And I need to try to figure out how I can fill it up a little bit more. I mean, but at the same time, patting myself on the back that I've been able to show up for people and give people opportunities and do all that with an empty cup. I had a couple of text messages with, a buddy that lives in another city, and it was kind of around that. He's like, man, like, I'm just tired of being unhappy. I'm tired of, and nobody knows this. Nobody, because outwardly everyone is looking like, damn, bro, you're so successful. And, even me. And I know we've had these conversations, and I know he's, but then I don't talk to him for a while. I'm like, fuck, man, this guy's killing it right now. And then to get that text and be like, man, like, I'm just tired of being unhappy and no one knows it.
And that made you feel?
I mean, made me feel seen also, because that's how I feel, So like, I had a fucking text in the chamber ready to go, you know what I mean? Like, bro, like,
let me tell you,
I'm right there with you, without, again, taking it away from him, but just also letting him know that I know I'm perceived in a certain way. No matter, even I'm so fucking willing to say these things and talk about the way I feel about myself. People still Like the conversation I just had, when she left, she was saying how much I embody all that I do. And like to every time when I hear shit like that, I'm like, that's fucking crazy. Or, when someone says to me and like, you have just such good energy. I'm like, that's fucking crazy because do you have any idea what the fuck is going on inside me right now?
Yeah.
Like it's wild. So I look at that as again,
do you feel that the energy that you portray or, the behavior, the actions are forced on your outward? I'm talking about outward. Are forced or
no? It does come across very smooth and natural. That's why everyone's like saying,
how'd you feel about they come
how
across,
I feel? No,
yeah.
it comes out smoothly, but I guess I'm aware of it.
Okay.
I'm in my head.
Got it.
And that's where a lot of the times, again, like, I don't know, like if I what chemically, again, I don't know what anybody else's like thoughts are. I just know what my thoughts are. So this is like completely normal to me, but I'm sitting here watching me say these things or do these things. And like, I'm in touch with like, oh, you don't feel that great, but you can like present out this amazing energy and you can present out.
I'm assuming the presentation is what I'm asking is the presentation effortless.
I mean, I think I've been doing it for so long that it comes across so smoothly. That is not like, you know what I mean? Like it comes across very naturally. I'm just aware of it.
I'm not talking about the authenticity that it's perceived, but the authenticity.
Yeah, it's not hard for me. I guess
Okay.
I'm just watching it happen as it happens.
Gotcha.
So it's not like, but even more so, like I've been, I don't try to hide, I guess. So when somebody asks me, how are you doing? I fucking hit them with it. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, there's a window. and I'm doing better at that. So I think one thing that has led me to that is it wasn't necessarily the book that you recently referred.
The dark side.
Yeah, but it was kind of around that conversation around, our shadow side and our light, that like, these are, both parts of us. This is what part of this throat tattoo that I have is symbolic of too, is like, the bad or the bad wolf within us is largely needed. We just need to learn how to interact with it. So this shadow side that I really try to suppress at times in, say, transactional interaction with somebody where, I'm doing a customer service thing and they say something off the cuff and, rather than just like smiling and whatever, it's like checking them, letting a little lid off that shadow. Has been really, really helpful. So I let that out a little bit more. And I think that's why, there's not as much, it's not that hard to then kind of also keep it at bay when I want to. But yeah.
So what's the action you're going to take when you go home tonight?
I mean, I guess continue to show up as compassionate and let her know that this isn't easy conclusions to come through. Like, I'm working on this and this, without opening up another 30 minutes of this episode, but that was another area that, I realize it shows up very often for me. And I know it shows up in other guys too, in this conversation, is that the work that we're doing, nobody gets to see the things that you're drawn to react or respond in a certain way. Say you really have a weakness for women, right? But you're in a relationship and your eyes keep getting drawn to this, or you really, you want to like flirt and you want to do all these things. No one's really seeing the thoughts in your head of you not doing that. So no one's going to really pat you on the back, especially the person that you want to acknowledge this, which is your partner. They're not seeing that. They're not going to acknowledge that, but they are going to acknowledge that one time that you slip up, or the thing that you say the thing, and they're going to come for you. They're going to tell you that you're not changing, that you can't change. And that's really hard. So again, and tie this back to me.
And let me ask you this, it's something that I just learned how to do it recently with Jan, like actually, telling her what I need from her in terms of, what I need in terms of affirmation. And it's not so much validation; it's affirmation.
But sometimes it's like, but I guess they can't even see the work that's been done. If it's something like, "Hey, I'm going to really try to stop hitting you," You know, you can't see the amount of times that I was going to hit you, then I stopped myself from hitting you. You're going to see when I hit you. You know what I mean? And therefore, you've never changed. And so I guess that's an extreme example. But there's 10 times that I would have hit you previously that I didn't hit you. You know what I'm saying? So whatever that is.
Yeah, I understand, but have you vocalized what do you need from her? Like, for example, let me just give you this, right? For me, when I work long days, right? I work 12, 14 hours a day. I come home, right? I don't get much acknowledgement because she's been with the girls for, all day and running around and cooking and all that. And here I go. Like, fuck. She's not even like, asking me how my day go. She didn't even, asking me what I want to eat. She don't, if I eat at all, if I need anything, right? So what I had to do, I had to learn how to say, hey, baby, what I need from you is when I come home after a long day, just a little bit of acknowledgement. That will fill my cup. That will make me feel better. And I know that I cannot necessarily always rely on that, right? All the time and expecting her to be an automatic on that. Sometime after a reminder. And I have to also have to understand. I also have to reciprocate that, right? So I believe it's important that when we're in a relationship, that we share with our partners what is that we need, and not just expect them to assume what is that we need, right? Because sometimes just, with her asking how your day went, it could change the dynamic all night, opposed not, her not asking me, now going to this like trip, right? How can I make myself seen tonight? Right? How can I make myself, how can I draw her attention? In any way. And most time than not, it's in a negative way. So yeah, so that's my suggestion is like, tell her what you need from her.
Yeah. I mean, I think, communicating that, in advance is always ideal, you know what I mean? And not, in the past tense. Right. So it's like, and because even like right now, I don't feel like I'm even deserving of that. Right. So it's like one of the things that I think what I would love for her to understand is that I'm not perfect, and that I am going to say these things at times, most likely, is, and it's going to hurt, but I don't really, it's just that, and that's the thing is like, what I'm asking for is like room to grow, the acknowledgement that this is going to come up, but that's not even really, doesn't seem fair to ask because I hurt already.
No, it's totally fair. You know what's fair? Because ultimately we all know that regardless of where we are and what stage we are in our life, we need to work on ourselves. That's a never ending process. And there are ills and wounds that we'll be carrying with us maybe until the grave. And just because we weren't able to get around that, we had to prioritize other things, other ills, other wounds, right? However, what's important is that in the meantime, we give our partner an instruction manual on how to operate around us. When she says something that is going to trigger you, it's your duty to let her know. Say, hey, baby, I know this has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. However, right now I don't have the tools, nor the capacity to deal with this type of language or this type of action. I would appreciate if you could do this instead. Again, I'm not putting the blame on you. I know that this is, trigger me in some sort of way. I need to work on that. In the meantime, I would appreciate if you could act or word things in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
And
It's not.
I hope, hopefully this resonates with some people, and hopefully this seems like more of the normal, and then that there is, again, just because it's normal doesn't mean that there's not work to do.
No.
But this is real life, this is my real life. And, like I don't believe in portraying just this happiness that's always there, or this relationship. Oh, look at that. They're so happy together all the time. That's not really real, because it's, becoming the best version of yourself. Like if you don't actually have real, examples, then it's all false. And that's what something that, in regards to say these other, just people, men to look up to. We're looking up to men, again, who might be killing it in the business game and shitty ass relationship or whatever it might be. And it's like, if I'm ever going to be the person that I'm going to be, it's going to be sharing these weaknesses or sharing these inadequate feelings of inadequacy in these certain realms as we strive to still be, and I think that's the audience that, is listening as well. They want to become more, and they want to become, multidimensional and have these other, just be a well-rounded person. And with that comes a lot of messiness and reflection, and, it's all normal,
Yes. What is important is, messiness, it's inevitable. We're going to come short of expectations, no matter how well prepared and aware of ourselves we are. It's just inevitable. What is important is having the capacity of recognizing that, accept that for what it is. It doesn't make you doing something stupid every once in a while. It doesn't make you a stupid person, right? It just means that you did something stupid, and it's okay to feel guilty about it. Don't shame yourself, right? It's important you feel guilty about it. Otherwise, that's your gauge. If you don't have that in place, then you just, you just act out of morality. But with that said, it's important that we acknowledge that, we accept that, and we make amend where we can. Yeah. And we move forward from there.
Absolutely. So with that being said, let's move forward, man.
Yes, sir.
On to the next one. Thanks for everyone, listening to
Thank you for sharing, Jacob.
Yeah, hopefully she's not too pissed off about me sharing. Don't tell her. Share this just with your homies, not to the ladies. It might get back to her.
Yeah.
But again,
well, you never know with today's homies.
Yeah, some of these guys. But yeah, with that being said, I mean, in all seriousness, like we do want some help in growing the show, so if any of this resonated, please feel free to, take a snapshot, share this, reach out to us. And again, the way that I know I lead with, say, mentorship or coaching, it's through my own experiences. You'll never hear me telling you that you should do this or you need to do this. I'll share with you what I felt like I needed to do in certain situations, but know that we are available for that. And you can find me at Cub_Saldana.
And you can find me at Strength Philosopher.
And go ahead and head over to warriorlab.coach. If you guys wanted to get in touch, we'll be working on that website. But right now there isn't any kind of inquiry, any kind of feedback you would like to provide, hit us up there. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Peace.